Business vibes is the first one we want to work into, because obviously this is where the primary problem that we kind of identify from a lot of new coaches is, how do I get my business running, right? So we want to kind of get you on track to begin with. You have some form of skill, you have been doing coaching for a while. How do I get myself out there as a business? So business vibe is the first model, or the first kind of program we're going to be running, right? Whereby vibes basically talks exactly about those 5 elements, right? So what are your values? What is your identity? What is your brand? How do you engage your customers? And therefore, what is your personal management structure? So how do you manage yourself, right? And I know that this might be, very straightforward for some of you. For some of us, it's not, right? And so this is where we are kind of looking at 2 things. One is this more self-introspective aspect to it. How do I know who I am, and what kind of coaching am I going to be doing, and what kind of outcome do I want from doing a coaching business? And the other one is, all right, how do I actually put myself forward out there, and how do I manage that flow of engagement that might be required from me in order to kind of make my business successful? Okay, so that's the first program. But we are looking at and we are developing now this idea of the nurturing your coaching soul, right? So this is your Albeit, because obviously when you go deeper into understanding yourself as a coach, you need to understand what makes you really, happy, right? And again, I'm using happy as a word, but it could be any other word. What makes you fulfilled? What makes you engage with your own life? What makes you kind of look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? I have the kind of life I really want to, right? Well, what is it that drives you? And usually it's not, a piles of money, or a permanent holiday in the Caribbean. It's not necessarily that. Actually, on the contrary, more and more studies that shows that we are at our happiest, if you want to, when we are engaged in work that actually give us a sense of worth, of self-worth. And so understanding what that bliss is, it's an important part of it. But there's also these ideas of what's your attitude? How do you engage with life? What are your ethical stand? I know from working with businesses for a long time now is this, that I always see 2 different kind of side of the same person. I might train somebody that is a manager or an executive or a team leader or whatever, right? But then when you start talking to them individually, there is the person that comes out. So there is a mask that has been taken off, right? And so that mask usually reveals that, yes, I'm doing this because I have to do this, but I'm not quite sure if I'm happy with that. I remember interviewing somebody face to face, that was a long time ago. They wanted to do a diploma in coaching, right? And this person said to me, you know what, I've been spending the last 11 years basically as an HR, winding down organization and basically firing people. And I felt that I need to do something for myself because I can't stand that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So there is an element of who I am is at odds with what I'm being asked to do by the place that I'm working with, right? And then there is this idea of tradition, right? So we often talk about how do you show up? What are the things that you do in order that when you get to the coaching session makes you be the best who you are, right? And in order to get to those traditions, there is an understanding of what are your struggles, what are the things that actually hold you back, what are the things that you feel you don't feel complete about, what are the things that you are difficulty with, right? So all these items, if you want, we're going to be exploring them and help people exploring through this program. And then there is a more practical one, more this idea of developing your coaching practice, right? So this is a 3rd program we're going to be running at some point or other as we go along in the process, right? And so here we're talking about how do you develop your present, what kind of tools and approaches and techniques you're using, how do you do your reflections? You remember that a lot of people struggle with the assignments that they have in the diploma in coaching, right? But if I'm thinking about that is a reflective practice, right? How do you develop the reflective practice in yourself so that you can learn on a consistent basis without the need to having an assignment submitted to somebody that evaluates it for you, right? And finally, there is this idea of supervision, and how do you choose your supervisors? How do you choose the kind of supervision you wanna engage with, and what do you want from supervision? Because sometimes having this intention is important. So we have these 3 key three program in the pipeline, right? But the one, as I say, the one we're going to be starting with is the business vibe that we're going to be starting on the 21st of September. And the idea of doing this program, right, that we talked with the own is this: these are not programs that we're going to be sit down and talk to you about that we're doing right now. These are programs that we have designed to inspire you, right? So you are the one that actually are being put in front of some challenges in you, right? You're going to be doing stuff that in some way ask you to dig deeper into yourself and find the energy to be empowered. Does that make sense? So everything we're going to be doing throughout these programs is coaching through, learning to coach through coaching. Yeah. And it's not just doing the triads. It's about, right, how am I going to go and apply this? What is this idea? How am I going to go and engage with my own identity? How do I discover that? Right. And now that I discover it, what will I do about it? So there is a direct connection between what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be translating into an action, if you want. And the process we're going to be using is that of the body system. So we're going to, whoever is going to participate, we're going to be kind of putting it into pairs, and you're going to be holding each other accountable for going through a certain amount of steps. Okay. So that's the idea of, right? So you start from where you are, and we're going to build you up throughout the whole process. Now, one thing that I want to make sure you understand in here, because one of my bigger gripes around marketing and the way things are around is, if I want to build a website, I can go to Squarespace and get a website, and there are templates, and I use a template and I fill in the templates, and it's going to look great and gorgeous, right? But then very quickly you realize that everybody has a very similar website than yours. And so there is no diversification. There is no way of actually saying, well, you know what, I'm doing something that is slightly different here, and this is why it's important. So the idea of going through a process is a very, very loose process, like the grow model could be. But whatever happened within the loose model, you are filling in the gap. Does that make sense? So we give you a platform whereby you're gonna develop your own very unique brand of coaching, if you want to put it that way. Your very own unique identity. And how do you translate it into a pitch or a video or a presentation? Does that make sense? So this is our objective, essentially, to kind of create the kind of uniqueness that is so important to each one of us. All right. So let me talk you through maybe very briefly about this program that we're running. There is over 3 modules, right? You're articulating your coaching business from identity to strategy, right? It's done by coaches, with coaches, through coaching, right? And translate principle into practice and build tangible outcomes. So the idea here, we want you to get very specific outcomes out of this experience, right? So let me maybe kind of articulate the 3 modules. Module 1, right? Here we are going to be really digging into this idea of value, identity, and brand. Okay, so that's the first thing. So we're going to kind of give you a number of different exercises that really is going to get the best version of who you are, right? Whether it is already there or whether it's waiting to come out, we're going to kind of try to kind of peel everything else off, so that the only thing you can see is this is it, right? But in my experience, that is just an idea, right? And to translate that idea into something that is tangible, it requires some refined work. And that's why after module 1, basically, we're going to have a period of time, probably around 4 weeks. We are thinking about doing 4 weeks in between each session, right? During those 4 weeks, basically, you're going to do this body work 1. Okay, you're collaborating with a body, right? And you use the concept and idea developed in module 1 to refine the best version of yourself in detail. So what we ask you to produce is your identity story. What's your story? How do you articulate who you are into a story, right? And as I show you here, I mean, that is not the only thing that I have in my pouch, right? This is my totem, right? These are all the memories of the important things that have happened in my storyline, right? And I can open up in there and I can remember each one of them and why they were significant. In some way, what we're doing with this is what leads you to this point in time to become a coach? What's the story? And how do I articulate it so that when I engage with somebody, they can understand where I'm coming from, okay? And I can present myself as a coach, and I'm supported by the story. And then obviously we are going to look for you to kind of articulate Some of you might have done that already through the program that you've done before. This idea of what's your coaching purpose? Who do you want to coach? Who do you want to be serving really? Who are the people that really you feel you can serve at the best of your ability, that really fulfill who you are as a coach? And obviously, what are the principles that drive your coaching philosophy? So what is it, your approach, right? I always say, most recently doing this with the diploma in coaching, but I mean, I have to say, somebody asked me, what kind of philosophy is your philosophy of coaching? And I always kind of say it's a person-based, a person-centric, right? And that's a very, big umbrella. But if I were to go into deeper and explain what that means to me and why am I focusing on that, then I have to give that kind of explanation. So we want you to develop that in terminology that you can transmit and give to other people that haven't done this process before. They don't know about coaching. So how do I explain person-centric to somebody that doesn't know what person-centric means, essentially? So we are looking for you to do the kind of work in between module 1 and module 2. And finally, your digital image or the logo. Now, I don't know if you have probably seen one of our video, right? How do we come up with the logo? But the logo was an interesting one because, it started from an idea, right? And it developed and it went in a number of different directions. And I remember we had probably about 4 or 5 weeks around the logos only just to come out with the final version of it, right? And there is a symbology to it, right? As you notice, probably the logo that we have as the 3 letters N outside, which is nurturing. And if you think about it, is embracing, right? Nurturing is about embracing everything that it's all about, right? Everybody's about everything that is about you. And then there is the Y, right? And the C is part of it, right? And this is the colors that we choose is interesting because we both have a form of a gold in our own personal logos, right? But own is more towards the blue, mine is more towards the red. So the center in there is we are kind of merging our own identity into this kind of a partnership, if you want to. And what comes out of it is all these ideas that are kind of the intention of it is to nurture the people that we care for in this kind of program, right? And so the logo in itself, if I explain it to you, as a story on its own, right? And it's important to be able to tell that story, because that logo, if you think about the word logo, right? It's meaning, okay? It's what you're all about. What's your fundamental meaning? And it's all wrapped up into this one symbol that you're gonna use it in presenting yourself in front of others. So it has to have that kind of critical meaning, right? And so we're going to go into that. So your digital email, logo ideas, theme and colors, why certain colors have a meaning, and so on and so forth. So this idea of building your own meaningful perspective of you as a coach. That's going to be the first module and the first piece of work. So when you come back, then we're going to go to the next module. It's basically your strategy, okay? Your strategy audit. And here we have 2 components in here. The engagement, identify your client segments and develop your strategy to engage with them. So as I said, who do you want to work with, right? Who are the kind of customers that you say, yes, this is me. And the one is say, I'm sorry, that's not the kind of stuff that I do, but I can tell you somebody that might work with, right? And this is an important thing to do, because one thing that I found as a coach is this, that at the beginning, there is hunger for business, right? There is hunger for starting your coaching business. And so you take everything, right? And all of a sudden, guess what? You keep getting the same kind of coaches, the same kind of clients. And for some reason or for another, they're not the one that you want, okay? And so there's an important aspect here to say, is this somebody that I really want to work with? And so how do I attract the kind of people that I really want to work with, that I really can add value to, right? So understanding that and understanding how to engage them is going to be an important part. And as Owen said, there is an element of structure. How do we actually organize ourselves? One mistake that I still do, and I still find it difficult to overcome, is that I fill my diary. I'm a P, right? Maybe you might know that I'm a full P. So I'm opportunistic in what I do. And so I say yes to kind of everything that comes along. And all of a sudden, if I might say, how the heck, this week was supposed to be free. All of a sudden it's full. And I'm not quite sure if I want to do all these things, right? So how do you manage your process and your work? How do you manage your engagements? How do you manage your planning, right? So this is all about your personal management system. And how do you actually allocate your time in a manner that allows space for everything you need to do, right? Because I remember, for example, doing coaching like 5 sessions a day, because they were participant of a program. And what happens when you do 5 coaching session in a day? The first one is great. The second one is great. The third one, you start to kind of have crossed eyes and wonder, is this person said this or that, or was the one before that said that, right? So you start to have a little bit of a problem understanding whether or not you're doing the kind of work that you want to do. But you do it why? Well, because I need to kind of build my business, right? So I need to get this kind of work done. And so if I don't do 5 sessions a day, well, I need to kind of think about how much am I charging? What is my time worth? What is my listening capability worth? Right? And so I need to be able to kind of value who I am, right? And articulate that value to the people that work with me. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep chasing the sustainability, but not really doing the kind of work that I want to do. Yeah. And that's a big realization. And for some of us, it's very difficult to overcome that barrier, if you want. So we're going to look at this, right? We're going to help you kind of through some approaches. And then obviously there's going to be let's play back, right? Let's organize it. And so we're going to look at the body work to produce a business plan, a 10 minutes corporate presentation, a 2 minutes video induction, and a 30 seconds elevator pitch. And guess what? Module 3 is about you presenting it back. Right? So you're coming back with all that work done, and you present it back, and we'll give you feedback. Not only us, but all the other participants. How does that work for you? And what would it look like, and so on and so forth, right? So essentially, we're going to establish this idea of how do we help each other as a coaching tribe, if you want to thrive and develop ourselves in the business that we do. And we don't want to leave it there, though. So while the modules are articulated in this way, ultimately what we are expecting to do after this is leaving a 3 to 4 months break after this, and then get everybody back 4 months later and say, so what happened? What did you do after doing all those steps? How did you put them into actual practice? And what kind of businesses have emerged for you? So we want to have a checking point a few months later to see how that is developed for you, and see whatever has emerged and maybe you need to address and work with each other or whatever it may be. And so that's that's what we're expecting you to do. So the body work 3 is collaborate with your body to coach each other and doing the work that needs to be done, translate your work into action and set up your business. And then we're going to review it together essentially after that. Okay. And this is the first program we're going to be launching, and the 21st of September is going to be the first day of it, if anybody is interested into engaging with this, right? The promise we make is that to kind of do this with all the knowledge we have, but also put in all the passion that we have for this particular practice, if you want to.